The return of Coke Classic led to nationwide euphoria. Sales figures not only reached,
I don't think that would be the
but
case
went on to
anymore.
surpass what the
I feel like if this happened today, Twitter would never forgive them. They would still just boycott it on pure principle. So I guess they just got lucky in the time period. Yeah, next I think we'll do EmpLemon's. Give me 1 second though, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll mute so you don't hear me tinkle. I'm back. The fuck is this setup? I'm in a log cabin, man. I'll be in a log cabin tomorrow, too. Our prosthetic penises against toss. Yeah.
This is carbonated brown sugar water.
No Top Gear.
And this is Coca-Cola. To an impartial observer, these two products may seem identical. But in the world of business, this little red can makes all the difference.
I've never had just brown sugar water before.
It's so gargantuan that even mentioning it feels redundant. Their logo is about as recognizable as the sun, the moon, and the stars. Across the history of human commerce, no other company even comes close to their longevity and scope. Their product is available in so many markets that it's far easier to list the places that don't sell it. The Coke empire has penetrated all corners of the earth, and even a little bit beyond that. They are the envy of the business world, architects of the single most valuable brand that society has ever known. When running a company, it's easy to believe that branding is everything. Take away this red and white label and what exactly do you have left?
Sewage.
It's tempting to consider whether you could sell someone anything as long as it's behind those same familiar colors they know and love. 40 years ago, Coca-Cola was thinking the very same thing, and nearly paid the ultimate price. In my last video, I talked about Mac Tonight, the most successful ad campaign that McDonald's ever ran. The character was a spiritual successor to Mac's Headroom, a memorable mascot for Coca-Cola which showed up on television at around the same time. Max Headroom was truly a bizarre character.
The only thing I remember from Max Headroom was that famous hack where the Max Headroom took over the radio waves or took over a TV channel for like an hour or something. What was the story there? Someone dressed in a Max Headroom thing took over a local station and he was never caught. It was 30 seconds. Oh, it wasn't even an hour. Oh. He showed his ass. Man, what the fuck? I don't think he showed his ass. He did? He spanked his bare ass on TV. What? I don't remember that at all. How is that like the one thing I don't remember from that? He really spanked his own ass? Huh. What do you know? Yeah, I don't remember that. I just remember him like taking it over and he was going... That's all I remember. I didn't know he fucking spanked himself.
Bitter rival Pepsi Cola has spent the past several decades slowly chipping away at Coke's dominant market share of the beverage industry. By 1985, Pepsi was on the verge of the unthinkable, overtaking Coke as the leading cola brand. The consumer market on which Coke had built their empire was rapidly changing. The health risks of soda were starting to be scrutinized, and aging customers had begun switching to low-calorie options like diet colas. This demographic shift meant that future sales of Coke's flagship product would have to rely on the younger generation, a generation who tended to prefer Pepsi. By the 80s, Pepsi had already started
shocking
Coke
to
in
me.
Supermarkets.
So I'm pretty sure, I think the stat is what, Pepsi dominates in the north, Coke dominates in the south, right? Because I never met anyone besides my dad that liked Pepsi more. Because my dad loves Diet Pepsi. If you preferred Pepsi, you're literally not human. I get the appeal. Pepsi is a less flavorful Coke. It's like a more watered down Coke. So it's for people that don't really like the intensity of Coke, I would guess. But they taste pretty incredibly close. It's just a matter of like how strong you want it, if you ask me. Like when you drink them back to back, you can really taste the difference. We did it on a tier list like a year ago. No, they really do. Pepsi is just a lighter Coke. But I know Pepsi is much more popular up north than it is in the south. So it always surprises me to hear that Pepsi was ever even competitive, but that's because I grew up in Florida. But I do know Pepsi owns more things than Coke outside of the beverage, right? Doesn't Pepsi Cola own like the majority of snacks, like most of the snack foods, are Pepsi Cola owned. You know, I'll just look it up right now. I mean, I'm on the fucking computer. I'm pretty sure Pepsi Cola owns like almost as much as Nestle does in terms of those kinds of companies. Largest PepsiCo brands based on 2009. Well, here's like a really good list of just like their big heavy hitters. Mountain Dew, Lay's. Wait, PepsiCo owns Gatorade? I thought Coke owned Gatorade. Doritos, Lipton, Cheetos, all the Quaker foods, so that's all of your bars and shit. Coke owns Power... Who the fuck drinks Powerade? Is Powerade still around? Does that still exist? But yeah, PepsiCo I think owns more than Coke. I still think Coke brings in more money though. Powerade ain't that bad, you cucks. But why get a just get like a fucking Gatorade or something if you're like that desperate. Why choose Powerade? That's like walking by every water brand and choosing Aquafina or Dasani. It's like, doesn't compute.
Coke controlled an estimated...
Oh, here we go. So I did a little research and Max Headroom didn't spank his ass. It was the TV signal hack that had a look-alike spank his ass. Oh man, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the hack. I didn't remember him ever spanking his ass. Obviously, like, the actual Max Headroom didn't, like, go on TV and spank his ass. It was the guy that hacked it as Max Headroom. That's what we were talking about. And yeah, it is true. We looked it up, a couple months ago. The original Coca-Cola formula actually did use cocaine. It was supposed to be, like, a medicinal drink for pain relief or some shit like that, so it used real cocaine. And it wasn't until, like, the 20s or 30s that they phased out the cocaine and replaced it. I always thought that was just a myth, but it's real. I didn't actually believe that they used cocaine.
60% market share of the beverage industry, distributing their iconic product on a global scale. Millions of customers across hundreds of countries, all enjoying the same formula that had remained virtually unchanged for nearly a century. It was Coca-Cola's golden goose, the real thing. Altering it would be like rewriting the Bible. And that's how the company thought, until Roberto Goizueta became chairman. By 1984, the company's mighty 60% market share had shrunk to just over 20%. Decades of complacency had allowed Coke's competition to get back in the race, and Goizueta was poised to put a stop to it. After becoming chairman, he boldly announced that there would be no more sacred cows in the company philosophy. In the next few years, he followed through on that claim by introducing two landmark products, Diet Coke and Cherry Coke. It was the first time the company had debuted any new product under the Coke name. While both options proved to be quite popular, they only sought to further compete with the company's flagship product, which was still losing ground to Pepsi. Carrying the pride of one of America's most revered institutions, Coke was left with no choice.
In the Bits Massacre.
In a time of Cold War tensions, Roberto Goizueta had to resort to the nuclear option.
Oh, what a time! It's gonna be Pepsi now. The winning taste is Pepsi. It's gonna be Pepsi now.
Damn, this advertisement kind of slapping. What a jam.
A major factor behind Coke's declining market share was an ad campaign known as the Pepsi Challenge, a blind taste test between the two colas that appeared to show an overall preference for the sweeter flavor of Pepsi. While not exactly scientific, the campaign was undoubtedly successful at persuading many consumers to switch to the blue brand. This led Coke to conclude that the only way to stop Pepsi was to beat them at their own game. It was then when Coke's senior executives commissioned a secret assignment known as Project Kansas, where company scientists were tasked with concocting a superior
Manhattan
formula.
Project.
Soon enough, they had synthesized the ultimate flavor, one that could consistently beat both Pepsi and the original Coke in a taste test. With a potential new juggernaut on their hands, the company was now faced with a tough decision. They could release the new drink as a standalone product, and risk further diluting the already crowded Coke lineup.
Or they change the formula.
Could do the unthinkable and replace the cornerstone of their entire brand. Ultimately, the choice was up to Roberto Goizueta, who would look to his past for guidance. Years earlier, when he was in charge of
he's a mover.
distribution,
He shakes things up.
Successfully boosted sales by slightly tweaking the Coke formula. He had already once committed the cardinal sin, but perhaps he saw it as a virtue. For Goizueta, the choice was clear. Coca-Cola, the product that he had sold for his entire adult life, was on the way out. And so the Coca-Cola company was set to make the single ballsiest move in the entire history of their business, replacing the very thing from which they were named. As the story goes, shortly before the launch, Roberto Goizueta sought out the blessing of his predecessor, Robert Woodruff, the man who had built Coke into the behemoth that it was. No one knows for sure what Woodruff really thought about the decision, because he wouldn't live to see it happen.
Oof.
In March 1985, Coca-Cola's most legendary executive passed away at the age of 95. 1 month later, the company launched New Coke. The events that followed were not nearly as sweet as they had hoped.
Uh-oh.
Coca-Cola is a pretty big company.
J. Jonah Jameson?
Buying one of their products really isn't gonna matter one way or the other. Where your purchase can matter is through a business like Bespoke Post. They're a subscription box service that helps out small brands from all across America. Each month, they offer a variety of premium goods ranging from outdoor, homeware, clothing, and more. Just fill out the online quiz and discover which of these exciting new products may be right for you. Previously, they've helped me accomplish my dream of climbing the tallest mountain in Florida. Thanks to the spacious comfort of the Weekender travel bag, I was able to conquer the entire 15 feet of elevation. Now, they've agreed to sponsor my new dream of dominating the beverage industry. Luckily for me, Bespoke offers a variety of liquid refreshment options, and unlike other subscription services, you don't have to worry about your order falling flat.
I'll tell you right now, I just fucking hate root beer.
You get the real thing.
Thanks for resub, Scooby.
Each month, you can preview your box, and if you don't like what you see, you can either swap it with something else or skip the month entirely for no charge.
Yeah, I just don't like it.
For my brewing purposes, I use the cast box to help me reach the bottom of the barrel in nutritional value. Now it's just a matter of adding my proprietary secret ingredients, and voila! It's my sugary addictive drink of the future. I think I'll call it Emp Energy. So visit bespokepost.com/EmpLemon and use code EmpLemon at checkout for 20% off your first box. And get started on creating your own secret formula. Oh, and no need to worry about Emp Energy. I'm sure that this fan favorite flavor isn't going away anytime soon.
Some CTR?
Simply stated, my friends, we have a new formula for Coke.
Yeah! Whee! Well, oh my god, wait, this was 1985? Wait, that wasn't that long ago, like, relatively speaking. I thought this was going to be, like, much earlier. I guess that didn't hit me till right now. 1985 is kind of, like, late into the game to change the formula.
For a real change these days, Coca-Cola is altering its 99-year-old secret recipe.
On April 23rd, 1985, New Coke was rolled out nationwide. Over the next 2 weeks, the remaining supply of the original formula would be phased out of supermarkets and restaurants. The change was paired with an immediate
Bill Cosby
campaign from company spokesman Bill Cosby. Initial sales of the product
aged very
promising. Early data
I love this new formula.
Were in line with projections.
Really hides the
Goizueta
drugs.
Confidently stood by his new product, already touting his decision as a success. The celebration was a tad premature, however, as trouble was brewing beneath Coke's triumphant hubris. Soon afterward, the company would find themselves struggling to stay afloat in a tidal wave of backlash, one that spawned right in their own backyard.
There's a prime Yerbic Potato in the resub, got your back, and Maddie.
Across its entire operational history,
we're in Texas right now.
Coca-Cola has been headquartered in or near Atlanta, Georgia, the heart of the American South. It's a part of the country which prides itself on a distinct regional identity, one that often runs contrary to the rest of the U.S. For generations, many Southerners considered Coca-Cola as hallowed as barbecue in college football.
I told you, Coke was always big in the South.
It is their bona fide beverage of
much
choice,
more than Pepsi.
So much so that to this very day, the prevailing sentiment in the South was one of abject betrayal. For many, it represented yet another pillar of Southern tradition that had been surrendered to the Yankees.
What?
Announcing the product smack dab in the middle of New York City certainly didn't help this perception.
How does that make
With
any
the
sense?
change, Coke had effectively alienated their most die-hard supporters. Emotions among the former faithful ranged from indignant to irate. More than 40,000 letters of protest quickly piled up in Coca-Cola's office mailbox. The Coke hotline was inundated with thousands of distraught callers per day. A company-hired psychiatrist who listened in to some of the messages observed some customers acting as if they had lost a family member. Needless to say, the reaction was much more severe than what was anticipated. There's a saying in business that all publicity is good publicity, but for Coke's new formula, it was simply not the case.
Is Coke nervous?
Not at all. We've never had more fun in our life. This wasn't a frivolous decision. It's something that we've worked on, John, over the last 4 years.
In the weeks after the debut, New Coke had become easy fodder.
Hey, I know that guy.
Board journalists.
David Letterman. I know him because that clip of him eating Jennifer Aniston's hair and being super creepy keeps floating around every week now. I've never really liked late shows, even when I was younger, but that's all I really know from him, is that he chewed on her hair and made it really weird.
There was the story of Dan Locke, an avid Coke drinker from San Antonio, who was apparently so mortified by the new Coke announcement that he immediately went out and stockpiled 110 cases of the original formula. Speaking of stockpiles, a few quick-thinking opportunists would use the hysteria to their advantage. A Beverly Hills man named Dennis Overstreet bought 500 cases of the old formula for resale at his wine business. After 1 month, he had customers lining up around the block trying to scoop up the last of his supply. Overstreet
You're so fucking dumb, that's the only thing that comes to mind when you think of David Letterman? Yeah, I don't like late night hosts, thus I never really watched Letterman, so all I know from him is that I don't like the late night formula. The only one I've ever liked is Conan. And Craig Ferguson a little bit. Other than that, they're all fucking boring.
Cases for more than double what he paid for them. The newfound scarcity of the old formula led many to scour some of the most rural areas for any remaining product. When America's domestic supply was completely exhausted, a few loyalists resorted to smuggling in the old formula from foreign countries who had not yet made the switch. Unfortunately, other forms of protest weren't so benign. One story out of Marietta, Georgia featured a woman accosting a Coke delivery man with an umbrella while shouting about how they had ruined the flavor. But by far,
the delivery driver made the formula himself, actually.
Was a Seattle man by the name of Gay Mullins, who would use $100,000 of his own money to found a new organization for enemies of the new formula.
What? What does that mean?
The old cola drinkers of America would declare war against New Coke.
He made his own militia?
Battle tactics included selling anti-New Coke merchandise, spamming the hotline with complaints, and organizing mass protests which dumped gallons of New Coke into the local sewer. At one point, Mullins even attempted to file a class action lawsuit against the soda giant.
God, what a worthless existence.
The constant hijinks would attract a ton of media attention to the movement, helping to grow Mullins' army to as much as 100,000 strong. For as much as Coke tried to salvage the image of their new product, the American public was sticking to their own narrative. It was only a matter of time before everyone saw New Coke as the most despised beverage in the nation. To make matters even worse, New Coke had crossed the threshold where it was simply fun to hate. During a baseball game at Houston's Astrodome, the crowd in attendance would infamously erupt in boos.
All this over a soft drink. I don't like it the way it tastes. I'm suing.
By this point, the backlash had far exceeded just a few oddballs.
That's like the most American shit ever.
It now resembled a full-fledged cultural event. Part of the morbid curiosity that attracted people to the controversy was tied up in the novelty of seeing such a powerful company struggle. In the first month after release, Coke's management remained committed to their product and tried to weather the storm. But by the end of May, the situation was quickly becoming untenable.
First they said they were the real thing, then they said they were it. Then kablooey, they changed.
Kablooey, yeah?
And now, I'm gonna try my first Pepsi.
Kablamo.
The company's strategy to poach business away from Pepsi was backfiring spectacularly. Shortly after New Coke hit store shelves, Pepsi saw a 14% sales increase, the biggest in their entire history. In mid-June, when soft drink sales typically rise, New Coke sales remain flat. Internally, Coca-Cola's officials were starting to panic. Amid complaints,
I don't know why, everything's going pretty well.
The company would quietly alter the formula yet again, this time adjusting its acidity. It was clear that Coke's leadership were losing faith in their vision. A few executives had already begun suggesting a return to the old formula. The last hope for New Coke was the product catching on in foreign markets. But after seeing the fiasco taking place in the US, Coke's international distributors wanted no part of it. New Coke was now threatening to dismantle the very structure of their business.
Damn.
With no other options, the company swallowed their
that shit must have tasted like ass.
To the will of the people.
But one of us looked at the other and said, "What are we doing? what are we doing here?"
In the latest battle of the Cola Wars, Coke says it's bringing back its old formula.
Within the next several weeks, the original taste, which many people in the country apparently missed, will be available again.
I wonder, can you still get New Coke? I want to taste it. I can't imagine it tasted that different. Like, it was probably just like a marketing ploy from the start. You still find some on eBay. Yeah, I know you can still find like Crystal Pepsis and shit, but they all expired and everything, and they literally are death. I was just wondering if there was like anyone that somehow got the New Coke formula and remade it, because that'd be the only way to be able to do it.
On July 11, 1985, Coca-Cola announced the return of the original formula, ending the New Coke experiment after just 79 days. The new formula
they did a reboot.
To be sold as simply Coke, taking a back seat to the rightful flagship product, now called Coca-Cola Classic. Following the controversy, longtime spokesman Bill Cosby would part ways with the company, claiming that promoting New Coke had hurt his credibility. This left Coke with a vacancy in their marketing
department, spotless record
which would soon be filled by the aforementioned Max Headroom.
Touch away, Coke.
Despite the very entertaining ad campaign, New Coke's reputation could not be salvaged. By the end of the 80s, its sales had dwindled to just a few % of the market before the company decided to shelve it. In 1992, they attempted to reintroduce the new formula as Coke 2, which went about as well as you may have imagined.
The Bible 2.
After a few years,
Coke
the
New
product
Testament
would be mostly discontinued once more, only sticking around in a few select markets around the country. Roberto Goizueta, the mastermind behind it all, continued to swear by his creation. He personally drank the product until his death in 1997. The return of Coke Classic led to nationwide euphoria. Sales figures not only reached,
I don't think that would be the case anymore. I feel like if this happened today, Twitter would never forgive them. They would still just boycott it on pure principle. So I guess they just got lucky in the time period here where people like protested and actually like celebrated when something changed, whereas now when something changed, it's still an issue because it changed. It's like if someone changed an opinion they had 10 years ago, it's like, oh, well now you're just pandering and I still hate you. So I guess Coke really just got really lucky here.
Solidifying their place as the top soda company in the world, a position they continue to hold to this day. Somehow, the biggest failure in industry history had directly contributed to its biggest success. A story so perfect that it led many to wonder whether it was planned all along. The incident sparked a variety of other conspiracies as to the company's true intentions with the new formula. Some speculated that the change was a response to the Reagan administration's war on drugs, with Coke having to phase out the last remnants of the coca plant from which they're named. Whether or not this was the case remains dubious, but a far more likely explanation had to do with the company shifting from cane sugar to the far cheaper alternative of high fructose corn syrup. Strangely enough, Coke Classic wasn't exactly the same as Classic Coke. The returning formula had entirely switched to using corn syrup as a sweetener. Gay Mullins, who received the very first can of Coke Classic, reported feeling sick after drinking it. Many other astute consumers had their suspicions about the apparent bait and switch. But for the vast majority, it simply didn't matter. They had complained, and Coke had listened, which, at the end of the day, is all anyone really wanted. I was born far too late to experience the summer of New Coke. The stories I heard felt like something of an urban legend. a forbidden elixir which caused so much heartache that it was practically banished from public consumption. An artifact so unwanted that it became unobtainable. I've spent the past month trying to study it, and after examining just about every aspect of the stuff, I was still missing one crucial detail. For as much research I've done, the literature, the footage, and the data don't tell the full story.
Cane sugar cola is 100 or 10 billion times better.
To understand new
yeah, I
Coke,
agree.
the only thing left to do
cane sugar is just better.
How do you even drink that? Because it's delicious.
What?
In 2019, New Coke experienced a brief revival after being featured on the hit Netflix series Stranger Things. As part of a promotional stunt, Coca-Cola would release a limited run of the 1985 formula. Only 500,000 cans were distributed, with a few winding up for resale on eBay. So I picked up a case, and for the first time in my life, tried the flavor that whipped an entire nation into a frenzy. And to be perfectly honest, it was kind of hard to taste the difference.
I fucking knew it would.
It's probably because I don't drink soda often, or that I hadn't tasted a Coke in a while. But I could barely tell the two drinks apart. Funnily enough, even a guy like Gay Mullins, New Coke's most ardent critic, couldn't tell either.
It tastes just like brown sugar.
Tells us that most people don't.
Kinda.
Unlike what the marketing may tell you.
I guess, I don't know.
Independent
That's a weird question.
Have consistently shown that the average person can't tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi. There will be at least one thing that stays the same. That is the essence of the real thing. And no matter how good New Coke tasted, it was no match for just how much that old formula meant to
give some mofo in tier 1 sushi.
In consumer society, people don't have much. Decades of marketing have all but replaced sincere human interaction with a superficial facade of products.
True, Coke collectors are kind of wild.
Those products, and you erase the soul of modern man. When it was all said and done, Coca-Cola and the entire business world learned a valuable lesson. If you have a formula that's worked for almost a century, it's probably best to stick with it.
Yeah. I still want to try New Coke now. Coca-Cola is the real thing.
You know, more people prefer the new taste of Coke over Pepsi.
Tastes like a flat Diet Coke. Yeah, Diet Coke's kind of actual ass. Diet Coke is like the most niche taste. Finding someone that enjoys Diet Coke is like finding a shiny Pokemon. I don't know who drinks it. But then there are people that just swear by it. Or at least, as I understand it, there are people who just fucking love it. Coke Zero is my go-to soda. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're gonna drink soda, Coke Zero is probably the way to go.
You're probably swarmed by people, overwhelmed by people wanting to come up and visit with you and be with you and take your picture and stuff.
Yeah, once in a while that happens. Not, you know, it's not as bad as I think people assume it is. But you know, there's always
honestly.
those odd.
You need help.
Those odd encounters.
You
know, there actually I had one kind of recently where I was at my gym in the steam room.
Really?
And then two young women come in and. There's that moment of...
okay, let me skip around. I thought this was just going to be the highlights, but it's not.
All of me, and then, you know, and they asked, then somehow...
This is rude.
Somehow they whipped a camera out, and I don't know where the hell they got a
camera! They have a camera in the steam room. Can I just try... Forgive me if this is rude. I just want to try one thing.
Okay.
Anton.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Come on, David.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Attaboy. Yeah, this is pretty much all I know of David Letterman. There was like a whole, I don't know where it is, but there's like a whole supercut of him being super creepy around women. At least I think it was women. It might have just been Jennifer Aniston, I couldn't tell you. But that's all I think of anytime he ever pops up on anything now. Why are people obsessed with Diet Coke? Jesus, we're really on the Coke train. Is there really like a documentary on it? God, Jesus Christ. Last fucking Coke-related video, but give me 1 second. Alright, why people are obsessed with Diet Coke? Because they're fucking psychopaths.
There is a bizarre number of people online claiming to be straight up addicted to Diet Coke.
What?
Addicted to Diet Coke.
Why? How? It's like being addicted to sitting on a cactus.
What started as an occasional trip to the vending machine became a 4 to 5 can a day habit.
Outside of short-lived attempts to quit, I haven't gone a single day without diet soda in more than 7 years.
Holy shit.
Diet soda seems so innocent. I didn't do drugs or smoke, and I hardly ever drank alcohol. Soda was my one and only vice, and didn't everyone deserve to have one of those?
Vices are the work of the devil. The devil, you fool.
Seems so innocent.
You invited evil inside of you.
A couple of years ago, nothing could convince me to stop drinking Diet Coke. I had absolutely zero desire to quit, and I was borderline proud of it. And obviously, I'm not alone on this. Diet Coke has managed to acquire this cult following. And despite it being seemingly zero everything addictive, is it possible that Diet Coke could in fact be habit forming? Well, to try and answer these questions, I feel like the place to start is with the drink's legendary secret formula. Also, P.S. if you don't make it to the Karen section of this video, you are missing out. Today's video is sponsored by me and my first ever behavior change guide. I've spent the last few years of my life studying behavior change and using what I've learned
the secret formula in Diet Coke is urine.
all of my bad habits using the method.
I know the secret formula.
Eating healthier, and even getting more consistent at the gym. It comes with a guide, exercises, and printable workbook that will hopefully help you discover why you do what you do and how to stop doing things that are making you unhappy. So if you have bad habits you want to break, or you just want to support the channel, click the link in the description box to check out the video and get your guide. And back to the video.
The world premiere of Diet Coke.
Hey! Oh wow.
Just for the taste of it.
God damn.
Once upon a time,
I want to get a Diet Coke now.
Why is Coke so addictive was simple. Cocaine. About 9 milligrams per glass, to be exact.
That was true.
And coca leaves are still a key component of the drink's secret formula, just minus the cocaine. Decocainized coca leaf extract acts as a flavoring agent in Diet Coke. Is it possible that it still contains some addictive properties?
Yes.
Could there still be trace amounts of cocaine in Diet Coke? Well, according to this test,
no.
No. There's no.
Fuck!
Cocaine. It was looking pretty touch and go there on meth for a while. But no,
imagine there's
coca
meth.
leaves do contain other compounds that could potentially
we got rid of cocaine.
One of them being nicotine.
And we put in
it's impossible to know without lab testing whether or not anything like this shows up in the final product. Instead, the biggest red flag on Diet Coke's ingredient list today is a different psychoactive drug, caffeine. Diet Coke contains 46 milligrams of caffeine per can, 11 milligrams less than regular Coke, but much less than a cup of coffee. But have you ever wondered why caffeine is in soda at all? Like, what's the point? Well, Coca-Cola's official statement is that caffeine is like a byproduct as well. That is just another ingredient that gives Coca-Cola its unique, great taste.
Just for the taste of it.
Caffeine being added just for the taste of it might not be true. Food manufacturers claim that caffeine is added to improve the flavor of their products. But this seems unlikely because caffeine is very bitter.
True.
And at least in soda, cannot be detected using taste by the majority of individuals who have been tested.
Just for the taste of it.
This means that caffeine is most likely intentionally added to Diet Coke so that you consume as much of it as possible.
Does that work for... I'm not a big coffee drinker. This is a legitimate question. When you drink a cup of joe, you wake out, you get your Folgers in your cup, kiss your sister, whatever. Do you want more coffee after your first cup? Because I don't know too many people that do. Like, Danny drinks 3 a day, but they're spread out over the day, and he's not, like, craving it. I know you can have caffeine withdrawals, but I didn't know if it was something like you constantly want more coffee. I'm getting yeses and nos. So I'm assuming it's different sensitivities to caffeine then, maybe. But this is literally just taking a temperature of the chat, not exactly scientific. There is science about it. I'm sure she'll get into it. I was just more curious, like, just going to chat when it's about coffee in particular, since that's most people's main source of caffeine.
Reward value is our first component of habit formation. It's really the first thing you need to make anything addictive. Anything our brain finds pleasurable or stimulating.
Yeah, but I don't actually get like super wired from caffeine, nor do I constantly crave more of it. It gives me a little bit of extra energy and it just tastes good.
As my fellow Diet Coke addicts will know, it's something of an experience. There's a satisfying pop and fizz of a freshly cracked can. The popping bubbles, rich caramel color, and burn of carbonation in your throat. And of course, that distinct spicy and sweet flavor.
Like Diet Coke is so aggressive for that reason. It just tastes like acid.
When you take that first sip of Diet Coke, you're not just tasting it, but engaging your eyes, ears, tongue, and even the pain receptors in your mouth. And this experience and all of these little pleasures on their own can contribute to the reward value of the product if you enjoy them. So could it still be as addictive as sugar?
I imagine
it would. Thankfully, for most people, the answer is no. Brain scans show that when offered sugar and alternative sweeteners, most people's brains find sugar much more rewarding. Their brains do still
that really looks about right for Splenda in particular.
Just to a lesser degree. This theoretically should mean that on an ingredient level, Diet Coke is less addictive than regular Coke. But it turns out there's one disturbing exception to this rule. Chronic diet soda consumers.
Diet Coke's the #1 diet soft drink in the world. For one simple reason.
It's probably the only one at the time.
The brains of individuals who consumed at least one diet soda per week found sugar and artificial sweeteners equally exciting.
Oof.
But that's no surprise.
The fact that the brains of chronic diet soda consumers are changing over time to value sugar and sweetener equally is a very good clue that sweeteners like aspartame could indeed be addictive. After all, when they try to give up diet soda. People are saying they experience headaches, light sensitivity, nausea, panic attacks.
Damn, that
behaviors
sucks.
Consistent with a full-on physical addiction.
I did experience extreme side effects from getting off Diet Coke, and my body just got so addicted to it that it just became like natural.
But here's the weird part. You'd think with so many stories online of people reporting symptoms like this, you'd think this would have been studied. But I couldn't find a single study on whether or not aspartame was truly addictive. Which is very, very odd given the volume of people complaining of these symptoms.
True, it could just be caffeine withdrawals, I guess. So
now, I'm sure we can investigate the secret formula and ingredients further. I had to cut out a whole section on carbonation alone. But regardless, the reward value is really only one component of what makes something truly habit-forming.
Yeah, more bangers.
45-year-old Stephen Morrison begins every morning with Diet Coke. And by the end of the day, he will usually have consumed up to 15 cans.
How is he alive?
3 to 5 liters.
Jesus Christ,
soda.
Stephen.
Ironically, Stephen's addiction to Diet Coke began when he was on a journey to lose weight and improve his health. No health-conscious person would consume even 5 cans of regular Coke in a day, being that it would rack up around 560 calories and 195 grams of sugar. Yet self-proclaimed health people, fitness addicts, and general overachievers think nothing of chugging Diet Coke.
Why?
Because, well, it's 0 calories. Okay, 1 calorie. And I think it's this rationalization, this focus on the fact that it's 0 calories, that is a uniquely addictive characteristic. Because it unleashes the second component of habit formation, repetition. The more often we repeat a behavior, the stronger a habit becomes. In behavioral economics, 0 is a very powerful number. Free things tempt us to discard our regular decision-making process.
Sex.
Our perception
0 is the
becomes
worst
distorted.
number.
We magnify the item's benefit and downplay its downsides. We also have a stronger and more positive emotional reaction to 0 products, which could potentially explain why Karen here
Hi, my name is Karen.
Hey, Karen.
I am what they call a Diet Coke fanatic.
Loves Diet Coke so much that she wrote this poem and made this video.
She wrote a slam
poem? How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. At restaurants, I choose to ask, do you serve Diet Coke? If the answer is no, I grab my hat and my coat.
Oh, there we go.
In my blood, it flows like a transfusion. I think about it all day like a bubbly illusion.
God, this is like the Freaky Fred episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
It surely seems. If I deny myself that drink, I have really bad dreams.
How many things in life are really 0 calories? Not that many. Suddenly, Diet Coke is replacing the snack you think you shouldn't eat, the cigarettes you're trying to quit, the second coffee of the day you don't think that you should have, all because it's 0 calories. The world is already consuming about 1.9 billion servings of Coca-Cola each and every day.
That's pretty good.
But apparently this is not enough. In 2012, Todd Putman, a former Coke executive turned whistleblower, stepped forward with disturbing information about Coke's aggressive sales goals.
A man who says he wants everyone to know about the way sugary sodas have been marketed in this country.
Goals of replacing not just their competitors, but all beverages in the American diet with Coke.
You market in a much more aggressive way. You think about tap water.
Bro, if I could replace every shirt with Moisty global shirts, I'd do it.
Diet Coke is like water coming from my sink. Only it's better, more delicious than that plain old common drink.
Which brings us to our final component of habit formation, context. Context simply refers to everything in your environment minus yourself. In the case of Diet Coke consumption, it refers to the specific situations you might consume Diet Coke in. Situations like at lunch with your Uber Eats or ritual order, at the movies with popcorn, as an afternoon snack or coffee alternative, a late night study aid, during dollar drink days, or when you're just too lazy to pour a glass of water. Successful products.
How could you possibly be too lazy for that? It's equal effort.
And moments that
getting a can of Coke and pouring water.
And then they stay there
Same effort.
Thanks to our habits. Rewarding a behavior, repeating it in a stable context or situation that is unlikely to change is the recipe for a very strong habit. Once a habit has been established, it's unlikely to change unless the situation context itself changes. Which is why you may have noticed that you probably order the same drink, maybe Diet Coke, at restaurants for the last 15 years. Because what makes a habit truly a habit is the fact that it's an automatic, non-conscious reaction. AKA, we're not choosing at all. We're repeating the same behavior based on the cues in the environment and based on our previous actions. And this is how you spend 60 plus years of your life drinking 1, 2, 3, 4 more Diet Cokes every single day. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is by no means an exhaustive list of what makes Diet Coke addictive.
I feel like this would apply to more than just Diet Coke, though, right?
Also using the term addictive, like, you know, garden variety addictive, not like clinically addictive. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Also, check out my guide. Link is in the description box, and thanks again for watching.
These are Subtasics in the prime green. Yeah, I feel like they would... Part 1's aggressive. I feel like that would apply to more than just Diet Coke. That was good, though. More based around the psychology. Yeah, I think that would work for pretty much anything. Addictions are pretty easy to form. Diet Coke less than Mountain Dew. Well, yeah, I think Diet Coke sucks. Pretty much anything can be habit forming. Yeah. I think I'd go further and say genuinely anything can be habit forming. Anything that you can do consistently can be a habit forming activity. The only thing that can't be like habit forming is shit that you can only do once or twice ever. Like watching a solar eclipse. Like things that are beyond your control. Why? Joe Rogan is not dead. God damn it. Oh. I see why you're saying... now I see why you're saying Joe Rogan. What could this possibly tell me that we didn't just learn? Viper is a rapper that has released 1,500 albums. He makes some of the worst music I've ever heard. He also owns a moving company. There's a great video on him by Gatsu called Viper, the Story You Never Knew. Viper also smokes crack, like legitimately smokes crack. That was one of the most disrespectful things I've ever read about an artist. A, you sold him short. Viper has released over 2,000 full-length albums. And B, he doesn't make some of the worst music ever made. Have you not heard Y'all Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack? Bruh, Viper only produces hits. He's still making music though? Yeah, I think he still makes like 2 albums a week. Like he's still on the... A lot of those songs on the album though are just genuinely like weird noises that Viper accidentally recorded through like FL Studio though. So some of them you can't even really call like music. More so just like happy little accidents. Hey, Jubilee refugees. Sorry to hear X is watching Jubilee.
You know, normally reacting or commentating on someone else's video as part of a critique falls under fair use. And generally speaking, pretty much
it's a meme on Twitch. So XQC will watch Jubilee and the chat fucking hates it. So when he watched Jubilee, some viewers will just like leave. They'll just go somewhere else. They call them Jubilee refugees. It's fucking great. It's like XQC's version of raiding. So he doesn't do like an official raid, but he'll turn on Jubilee and he'll just like disperse viewers all over the platform.
That's like a reverse spirit bomb.
Yeah, it's so cute. It's so sweet. I think he does it on purpose, just being a nice guy.